California. Thanks for making that trip in today. They're going to help demonstrate how the simple items on this table can be repurposed to sound like something completely different than what you might think. For example, in Foley, a water bottle could be used to articulate the sounds of breaking bones. Something like this. Check it out.
Welcome to the Magic Factory River Tour. The runtime is 9 minutes, the capacity is 6, and the ride at any time will support 50 logs with a maximum hourly capacity of approximately 1,500. The guest journey begins when they meet the founder of the Magic Factory, the cloaked wizard Brandolph the Wise, who welcomes them to the Magic Factory. As the boat turns a corner, the guests pass countless contraptions churning out wondrous magical items. The machines of the bustling, wondrous factory let off all sorts of steam and sounds, immersing the guests in the magnificence of the factory. Then, guests turn another corner and enter the heart of the Magic Factory, the Magic Machine. The Magical Machine is a mysterious collection of busy dials, pipes, and vats that create the very magic that the factory is famous for. As the guests pass, they find themselves sprayed by holes in the machine as water leaks from those legendary but worn pipes. If the guests look closely, they can see the machines giving off a magical runoff into the very river the guests sail. Now the guests find their boat picked up by rushing water, fastly approaching an outflow pipe which the runoff and the guests are about to leave the factory from. The guests' view darkens and suspense builds as they enter the pipe and take a moment as they look out into the depths below. Splash! As the mist clears, the guests find themselves surrounded by humongous supernatural trees. They have entered the legendary magical forest. As the guests begin their journey, their boat sails down through a serene forest and discovers all of the wondrous magical flora populating this quiet, misty forest. As the rivers begin to pick up, the guests begin to see strange and unsettling animals and structures that defy logic and shatter the limits of imagination, resulting from the magical flow of the river. The guests come around a bend in the river and set their eyes on a roaring, crushing waterfall flowing in their path with their boat sailing on a collision course. Splash! The guests emerge soaked and breathless from the other side of the waterfall and discover a secret forest village populated by intelligent, human-like animals. They are greeted by a very articulate owl that welcomes them to the magical forest. He introduces himself as Franklin the Owl and implores the guests to come to his library as he made an important discovery in regards to the nature of magic and the river. As the guests set out in search of the library, the guests sail through a large pond at the center of the village, where animals play and splash each other in a purple-tinted magic water. On the shore, Socrates is busy studying with the water while Eureka Rabbit drops a bunch of strange objects into the depths. Snyder the Snake is busy telling a riddle to a puzzled Brad the Beaver. Bulldozer, Kit the Cat, and Freddy the Frog are busy constructing a new house along the shore. Carlton the Crocodile has painted a beautiful mural along the wall of one of the newly constructed houses. When guests turn the corner, they see a gigantic, grand, wooden treehouse. It is Franklin's library. The guest's boat eventually finds itself climbing higher and higher, past the grand twisted branches into the front door of Franklin's library. As the boat reaches the end of the climb, the boat sails into the grand library where they find themselves surrounded by numerous texts piled to precarious heights. The guests notice that the house has found itself waterlogged from river water, and numerous texts are hanging out to dry. Eventually, the guests' boat comes to a halt, and they stand face to face with Franklin, who begins by showing them a book about the history of magic, and opens it to a page where the phrase, "Unchecked magic equals ?" is circled quite frantically. However, behind the guests, some magic has leaked onto one of the books. Behind, a loud, swirling vortex behind the guests opens up, dragging the boat backwards into its swirling depths. The guests find themselves surrounded by a swirling collection of colors and magic, and their boat climbs backwards through this magic void. The suspense builds as there is no way of knowing where or when they might end up. The guests emerge to see a wondrous scene within what seems to be a casino run by weirdly familiar gargoyles. The building's run down, covered with overgrown vines and old rickety wooden tables piled with chips and cards. Gargoyles crowd and holler over numerous goofy games. The room is filled by loud chatter, with pockets of groans and cheers emerging from the different game tables as the gargoyles reveal and reel with triumphant victories and debilitating losses. In the center of the casino, a hollowed-out version of the magic machine serves as a centerpiece. What was once a large, magnificent machine is now covered with rust and blackened by what looks like a tremendous explosion. Oh no! The gargoyles think someone cheated and a large scuffle breaks out. The car begins to pick up speed and the gargoyles begin to swarm and cause a ruckus. One out-of-control gargoyle swoops toward the car and it narrowly avoids the collision. However, the boat unexpectedly falls backwards through the portal and through this hole in time and space. When the boat crashes back down, the guests find themselves in the Magic Factory Control Center. The boat begins to right itself. However, alarms begin blaring and pipes are beginning to burst, spraying magic everywhere. The magic machine is about to melt down. Franklin flies through a shattered window, grateful to have found you, and he urges you to get to the factory floor and stop the machine's meltdown before the dark future from the portal is realized. As your boat approaches a hole in the floor, the guests look down to see nothing but darkness and a raging fire awaiting the boat's precipitous plunge. Within seconds, the boat plummets a tremendous height into the heart of the factory, where the boat narrowly avoids the fire and escapes, surprisingly unharmed. As the boat sails away from the danger, the guests see the animals and Wizard have managed to patch the leaks in the machine along with the forest creatures. They stand in triumphant as the machine grinds to a halt and no longer poses a danger to the forest or the factory. As the boat pulls away, the guests find the grateful Wizard, who is now fully unhooded to reveal the face of a gargoyle, the cost of many years of working with unchecked magic. The Wizard vows to use the machine responsibly in the future and thanks you for your courage. The guests stalk, leaving exhilarated by the wondrous journey that is the Magic Factory River Tour.
This central attraction starts with our very own Brad the Beaver giving the A-OK on his handmade log seats, welcoming the guests aboard. Making our way down a blind corner or two, the sound of an argument draws the attention of the guests. We see Franklin the Owl's library filled to the brim with books, and the two arguing rabbits, Eureka and Socrates. Franklin the Owl sits quietly in the background as the two bicker. The rabbits gesture towards the swirling portal in the middle of the library. From the conversation, it seems Socrates wishes to jump into the portal, while Eureka lectures him on the dangers of magic spills and their wild effects. Socrates brings Franklin into the discussion, and of course he sides with Socrates. Eureka reminds the two that they have guests, but Socrates shrugs it off and pronounces that we can come with. The ride makes its way through the library's portal, and we find ourselves in a beautiful enchanted forest. Our three animal friends look in awe at the beautiful nature around them. The sunlight streaming through the forest sparkles and the patches of moss glow. Socrates picks up flowers, stuffing them in his pockets, and Franklin looks around curiously. The portal now closed, Eureka pulls out a vial filled with blue liquid. She mixes a small amount of it with other chemicals, explaining that she took a bit of the magic residue with her and can try to create a portal back. Socrates offers to help and takes the mixture from Eureka, who immediately tries to snatch it back. In the commotion, the mixture goes flying and creates a portal. Eureka grumbles and gestures for everyone to enter the portal. As the ride makes its way through the swirling magic, we see the trees around us are no longer enchanted, but instead gray and twisted. The deformed trees creak and moan as the wind howls. The three forest friends stay huddled together, jumping at the snap of a twig. In the distance, we see a spooky castle. It looms ahead, a daunting structure. But, making our way inside the castle, we find a lively casino full of even more lively gargoyles. Socrates buys himself some chips, but is dragged away by Franklin and Eureka before having the chance to find a table. We exit the main room and find ourselves going down a long hallway. Eureka announces that her new potion is ready. Franklin tries to warn Eureka that there's someone standing at the end of the hall, but the potion is already in the air. It goes flying forward, hitting the gargoyle further down the hall and creating a new portal. Eureka yells sorry as the ride rushes toward the portal to escape the newly caused trouble. In the dark, the tracks dip down. The ride finds itself again in a forest, but this time something's different. The passengers have shrunken. A giant shoe sits in front of us with windows and a door. Entering inside, we can find an entire miniature house. There's a bottle cap tub, a toothpick chair, and through one window we see a giant eye. It's Eureka. She says she lost the vial of magic residue. Next to that window we can see the vial though, which has little left in it. Eureka makes another potion while Socrates tries to offer assistance. Eureka refuses to let him help and throws the newly made batch. Through the portal we go, up and up. The portal leads the riders to a cave full of treasures. There are golds, jewels, relics, and more. But inside this cave of riches is a very sleepy guard, a dragon. Socrates shushes us and suggests we sneak out. We slowly move past the dragon's eye when Franklin sees a book he hasn't yet read in one pile. Franklin tries to carefully remove the book, but a chain reaction ensues of objects loudly falling. The ride speeds up as we and our three animal friends run from the dragon down corridors. Eureka panics, unable to create a stable solution in such a moment. Socrates asks Eureka to trust him to try, so she gives him the magic residue and he starts adding in ingredients from different worlds they visited. Some flowers, some casino chips, and wham! Socrates throws the potion and a shimmering portal appears ahead. We all quickly jump in. The group finally finds themselves back in Franklin's library, celebrating their escape. Eureka apologizes to Socrates for not believing in his abilities, and Socrates apologizes for being so impatient. And Franklin immediately dives into reading his new book. The three say goodbye to their guests who've made their way to the end of this adventure.
Congratulations! You have won a golden ticket to visit the Magic Factory where magic is manufactured and produced. In the queue, the hallway is decorated with pipes leaking magical liquid. At the beginning of the line, the environment is grungy and oily, the pipes spilling dark, void-like liquid onto shriveled roots of barren trees. However, as we get closer to the beginning of the attraction, the walls become more whimsical and beautiful, with spots of green sprouting from trees and magical forest creatures transformed by the magic. When you reach the head of the line, you are beckoned from the queue by a tour guide dressed in medieval-esque wizard garb and an apron with the Magic Factory logo. They lead you onto a railed conveyor belt that takes you through an LCD tunnel where you can see magically infused creatures sprawled throughout the forest, engaging in all sorts of playful activities. As you proceed, you see a group of squirrels in a nearby tree, playing as a band with improvised instruments made out of magical twigs. Between the trees, a large scintillating bear with leaf-like ears lumbers into the distance. You then venture onto a bridge that passes over a flowing stream that sparkles with glitter. Beneath the water, you see large multicolored fish swimming side by side down the stream. At the far side of the stream, you can see a family of badgers sitting upright with fishing poles, yanking the large fish out of the water. Finally, you arrive at the gates of the Magic Factory. The gates are that of a tall metal castle that is hard to comprehend from so close. You see large battlements standing tall at either side of the gate and drainage pipes exiting the side walls. You are instructed by the tour guide to enter into their magic flying machine that you will use to tour the factory. As you look closer at this whimsical flying machine, you notice that it is fashioned from the magical lumber harvested from the forest with huge leaves that look like fairy wings. And with that, your adventure officially begins. As you and the rest of your group enter and are buckled into the flying machine, it sputters to life with a puff of sparkling smoke, and the wings begin to flutter quickly like hummingbirds. The tour guide presents a special remote and presses a big red button. The massive Magic Factory gates gradually swing open with a low groan. Your lively vehicle lifts off and passes through the gateway, revealing the main workshop of the factory. You are greeted by a bustling workshop full of eager and joyful animal workers. As you fly through the workshop, you see characters working on various projects, pipes pumping technicolor liquids, and sparks flying all around you. In one workstation, you see a group of bipedal cats carving out magical logs and fashioning flying machines, just like the one you are riding in now. In another part of the workshop, a bull in overalls and a hard hat works tirelessly on various renovations like installing new piping and replacing charred and splintered floorboards. Finally, you see a frog at the back of the workshop agonizing over blueprints for new expansions to the Magic Factory. After your flying machine winds around the workbenches of the factory, your flying machine lifts off and flies out of a window high up on the far wall. The flying machine soars out into the open air and takes a wide berth into a window 1 floor up from the main workshop. As you approach the window, Socrates the rabbit opens the shutters and invites you into his tinkering workshop. You see his messy workspace littered with gears and other mechanical components. There are models of roller coasters and various flying vehicles that loop around the room and fly overhead. You see gadgets that are being torn down and repurposed, and gizmos being built from previous projects. Clearly, making a mess doesn't bother him, but he seems to be making some real progress on a new flying machine design, a double-decker that can hold twice as many people. As you approach the door at the end of Socrates' workshop, Eureka the rabbit bursts through the door with a soft explosion. She coughs away the smoke and lights up when she sees you. Surprised that you're here, she beckons you to join her in her laboratory. Eureka is a studious orange rabbit wearing a white lab coat and a pink bow. She dusts the soot off her shoulders and properly introduces herself. In Eureka's laboratory, you see potions and plants and other organic specimens neatly lined up on shelves around a well-lit storeroom. She tells you that science is all about rigorous experimentation and a strict adherence to the scientific method. Lab results should be well documented and reproducible so that we can be certain that the knowledge that we have is reliable. After you tour Eureka's laboratory, you are guided through a small set of doors which opens up to an indoor garden with a large tree library rising up from its middle. The large doors of the library swing open, revealing the scholarly owl Franklin sitting on an armchair engrossed in one of the many volumes from his library. The tour guide addresses Franklin, reminding him about the visiting guests, to which Franklin replies, "Who?" before stuffing his beak back into the book. As you proceed into the library, you can see towering bookshelves stretching as far as the eye can see. You notice extra special books locked away behind tall glass boxes that project images of various magical universes. After being ignored by Franklin, the tour guide explains that Franklin is the keeper of knowledge in the Magic Factory. He tells us how this library is dedicated to the preservation and responsible use of knowledge. You notice that one of the glass bookshelves was left open, allowing dark magical particles to escape from its confines. Your flying machine jolts as it veers away from the tour guide and towards the book. You are enthralled by this mystical book and tempted to venture even closer to its world of endless possibilities. From behind you, you hear Franklin wake up from his book and shriek, "No! Don't look at it! You mustn't go any further! You'll be doomed!" He catches up to the side of your flying machine, but too late, before you are sucked into the book and are traveling into the bowels of a new dimension. As you enter the book, you are consumed by darkness, with no sense of direction. All of a sudden, the pace of the flying machine speeds up, and you experience great turbulence as you travel to this other world. As you proceed, wind is blown against your face, and the portal is illuminated by swirling magical energy. In the distance, you see a light appear, suggesting a possible end to this harrowing journey. You plunge into a thick wall of illuminated fog that heavily obscures your vision. In a clearing stands a menacing cathedral backlit by crackling lightning that shatters the sky. Drainage pipes run out from the colossal cathedral and weave through the leafless trees and leak dark liquid that fizzles as it hits the dry dirt below. As you take in these dreary sights, your flying machine travels through the open cathedral doors. Upon entering, you are greeted by a very familiar but distorted sight, a workshop with the same layout as the Magic Factory, but inhabited by large gargoyles toiling on assembly lines and lugging around large pipes and other materials. Where you once saw colorful elixirs, sparks, and stars flying around the room, you are now affronted by plumes of smoggy black smoke and licks of fire spewing from furnaces. The gargoyles sing a somber work song in time with the loud clunks of hammers and the buzz of saws. Suddenly, an alarm blares, and red lights circle the room. You hear a gravelly voice yell, "It's break time, everybody!" What started as a somber scene explodes into a commotion of excited pushing and shoving and jumping and howling as drawers are opened and desks are flipped, revealing game tables and roulette rounds. The workshop has become a lively gargoyle casino. However, in the midst of this madness, your flying machine is swept up and pushed along quickly into the flurry of the casino. In one moment, you are dodging and weaving to avoid getting stepped on by the giant gargoyles. In another, you are scooped up and spilled out of a cup of dice onto a green gambling table. Again, you dodge out of the way of hands slapping tables and playing cards being thrown and picked up again. Finally, in a desperate attempt to escape, you dive into a roulette table that throws your flying machine into a spiral as the round begins to spin. Around and around you go, spiraling deeper into the center of the table as if it is a sink drain. As you reach the bottom of almost certain peril, a portal opens up where you can see Franklin urgently beckoning you to escape. Your flying machine dives through the portal and you skid to a halt, with the portal quickly closing behind you in a puff of smoke. Franklin, wringing his wings nervously, congratulates you for your safe return and delivers his final moral to this harrowing story. Knowledge and magic can be used to create such wonderful things in this world, but if not used responsibly, it can put you and those around you in danger.
Wild West was sepia-toned anyways.
Obviously, in the actual Wild West, things are painted shiny and new.
Join the adventure.
Begin the journey.
Embark on an epic quest.
Yeah, our girls from California Lutheran University.
Yeah, welcome gang, all the way from California. Thanks for making that trip in today. They're gonna help demonstrate how the simple items on this table can be repurposed to sound like something completely different than what you might think. For example, in Foley, a water bottle could be used to articulate the sounds of breaking bones. Something like this, check it out.